So what difference can a day make? Or often we ask the questions like, what difference can we make as an individual? Often we actually carry something within us, a lack of belief, a lack of value in the world, and often believe that we can't actually make a difference in the world. So today I just wanted to give you a little snapshot, a little bit of an insight into an experience that I just had in Peru. Not to sell you anything, but just to maybe challenge you softly or directly in terms of what kind of an impact that you can make, and challenge this whole notion of how much can you actually do in a day, or how much can you actually do in a moment. So basically once a year, starting last year, I went to Guatemala, and this year Peru. I just got back. I run an experience called Give and Grow, and the concept, without getting into all the detail, is essentially personal growth with contribution and a twist of adventure. In other words, we go in order to actually give unconditionally to, in this case, and in this experience, orphans, who I believe I have a very soft spot for, not because I'm an orphan, but because I relate to them at some level, because there's a vulnerability and innocence, and there's just something very raw about an orphan as opposed to somebody else in need, because they didn't have choice. They were either abandoned or taken away from their parents, or whatever the case may be. And often there's a lack of hope in their lives and their existence. And the idea behind the concept is to give unconditionally of yourself, with the idea, you don't do it to grow, but the idea is you give unconditionally, and therefore you grow exponentially. And that's ultimately what I've seen. So anyway, we arrived in Peru the week before last. It feels like a bit of a haze in one respect, but and we arrived in the first orphanage, and we literally got off out of the bus, and all the kids were there, and some of the volunteers and different things were there. And what absolutely amazed me, even though I've experienced this before, but it was an incredible reminder, and also it really surprised many of the individuals who had joined me on this experience for the first time, is the overwhelming need, just need to be held, like just literally. And it wasn't, they were told to hug us. They weren't like, they didn't feel like an obligation, and some of them just held us. Some of them a little bit insecure initially, some of them very scared, some of them very apprehensive. They get people coming into their lives and sometimes get close to them and they disappear. There's always that sense of abandonment that they carry with them because they're orphans, etc. But nonetheless, just that the overwhelming need to just connect and to be held, and that in essence is at its very raw, simplest human level what Give and Grow is all about. It's not about going and giving them gifts, even though we did some of that. It's about spending time with them, and the premise is that we literally hold them and hug them and engage with them and look at them and play with them, to show them that at least for a day, if only for a day, they matter. They actually matter in this world. And often, people who are contemplating this experience say to me, there's a number of different things. Number one is, well, what difference does a day make? And by the way, we didn't spend just one day. We spent a number of days. But I'm focusing in on what this one day represented, the very first day. And the second thing is like, I'd be very sad, I'd be this, I'd be that, I'd be that. So, well, hang on a second. Number one is you don't know what difference a day makes until you come. And number two is, the second piece of this is all about you. It's not about you. That's the point. It's about you, but it's not, if that makes any sense whatsoever. This is about making yourself available to give unconditionally to other people, without the need to know how this is going to support you, how this is going to affect you, because that's just not the place for this. But I remember we got off the bus, the kids were like just there, they hugged us, some of them were apprehensive, but they still wanted to just be touched and be connected to us in some respects. And then as the day progressed, it was incredible how these young souls basically showed up in ways, and their confidence, and their smiles and everything else. And there was one little girl that we got off the bus, and she reluctantly leant into one of the ladies' lorry, and then like later on that day, she was just this beaming beauty of confidence and groundedness, and just had so much fun, and painting my face and painting the other people's faces and everything else. So sorry about that photograph, but it is part of the experience. But I would challenge you not to necessarily come and give and grow, even though that'd be something that may appeal to you. But like, what can you do in a day? What can you do for people, whether it's orphans or whatever it happens to be? But don't ever underestimate the power of what you can bring to the world, what difference you can make in a child's life, or an adult's life, or an older person's life, or an animal's life, or whatever it happens to be. But also in terms of the time scale. We went, after working with the orphans, we went to 3 different orphanages over 4 days. we went and did the Inca Trail, and we hiked to Machu Picchu up in the Peruvian Andes, and the guide was mesmerized and a bit surprised and taken aback, and genuinely so appreciative of the fact that a group of individuals would fly to Peru and work with children in his own country, something he hasn't done himself. And he was really inspired by the whole experience, to the point where he committed at the end of the Inca Trail to actually going and working with these kids. But what was holding him back was that he was trying to set up some non-profit worldwide organization. He was trying to do this and he was trying to do that, and he was biting off, in essence, not necessarily more that he can chew, but maybe enough that he could chew for the moment. And I just said to him, why didn't you start with 1 hour? Why didn't you just kind of lean into some sort of conversation, if it's with kids, whatever you are drawn to, trust that and lean into that. So the same principle applies. Rather than biting off something perhaps insurmountable in the context of your life right now, the chaos or the busyness or the complexities of your current existence, maybe just lean into one conversation, one talk, one half hour, one hour, piece of contribution that you can give back. And often people feel that, this is just something else just dawned on me right now, is they often feel that they almost need to get their shit together. They need to get their own house in order to ever come back and contribute. And I often find that if that's the mentality, you'll never contribute in life outside of the one of your own and the people on the peripheral of your life. But actually, in some shape or form, I believe that if you actually find the time, which it's never time and money. That's never the challenge. If you dig deep enough, it's never time or it's never money. But if you create that space and give back, it actually ironically leads to the very thing, that clarity, that destiny, that simplicity, that success, whatever it is you're looking for. I think giving is an integral part of life. But the one caveat, the one condition is you don't give to receive. Because if you give to receive and you create that expectation, you won't receive remotely, not even close to what it is you think or what you want to receive in the first place. Take care. Bye.